Alberta Parents Union in the old-fashioned sense of the word of people coming together for a common goal, where parents who want to have more of a voice, more impact in the K through 12 education system. So, I've been hearing from a lot of parents, especially over the last 2 years, about how things have just gotten too big, too far away from the parents, where we have a system that's is supposed to be designed around parental authority and around parents driving quality in the education system, especially to the extent that the money does follow the child to the school of the parent's choice. But that started to erode, and we're getting away from that, and too much reliance on the so-called experts, when the real experts on any individual kid are the parents of that kid.
Well, that's it. And we have, I mean, just speaking for myself, one of the things I get frustrated with is teachers unions or other advocates and so on. It keeps pointing out all the time for things like standardized testing. Well, every child is different. Everyone learns differently, and we can't have that standardized testing to measure. I kind of agree. That's fair enough. The parents know as well. Their children respond. This child responds to this. This doesn't with that. But if anybody talks about changing the status quo from a standard, well, then all of a sudden, no. We have to keep the public system, only one model, one curriculum, right, no matter what. And the parents are ignored. It's time to crack that double standard a little.
Absolutely. And if you were to suggest moving to the system that we have in education in any other area, including healthcare, by the way, where you take your pile of taxpayer money with you to whichever doctor you choose, and the bad doctors go out of business because no one picks them. Imagine that we said we're going to residentially assign you grocery stores, and you have to go shop for groceries at the nearest grocery store, and it's a monopoly option. You don't get any other choices, or if you do, you've got to pay for it again. You've got to pay the grocery store closest to you and then pay again for a grocery store that will actually serve you and meet your needs. Everyone would think that was insane, but because it's the status quo in education, it's considered radical to violate it.
Yeah, so you're looking at you're promoting choice in education then. Yes. I mean, we've got a few options right now, charter schools, sure, and they're starting to grow and develop, but they've got a great deal of limitations. So you're looking to expand more of those alternatives then?
Yes, more choices, less limitations on those choices. It's like, so Alberta, the only province in Canada that allows charter schools, and that's great. But it's like when we introduced them, we were almost afraid they would be too successful. They started out capped the total number of charter schools. There no online charter schools, no co-location between two charter schools. It's
very regulated.
It's all this, all these hurdles. Like we were too afraid they would be too successful, and that's so much of the choice in education. It's almost afraid that it'll be too successful, undermine undermine the world-class public system, when really we have a world-class system because of the choice and competition. Like in everything else, competition drives quality, and so even for the majority of kids that are never going to go to anything but a fully loaded public school, the quality is driven for them as well by those other options being there.
Yeah, and I mean, we're just seeing a lot of controversial subjects entering curriculums or getting into classrooms that not every parent is comfortable with. And when, again, their children essentially locked into one system, you have no choice or direction towards what they're going to be learning. I mean, there's always going to be a core curriculum, I imagine. You have to have that.
Sure.
But
or core standards at
least.
Yes.
But with some choice, parents could choose to put their children into facilities that might not be putting some of that other messaging out that they don't.
Sure. Kids are not one size fits all. Education is not one size fits all. The idea that there would even be one size fits all curriculum for 4 million Albertans is kind of crazy. So what we need is and then if all we can do is change these things from the top down, then all we can do is have these super politicized fights where one side wins and one side licks their wounds and is going to get revenge the next time. And so the other option is pluralism and choice, where we empower parents to go to whatever choices, and the choices that succeed are the choices we'll see more of. And that's how we get in just like in every other thing, like buying groceries, how we get quality.
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the arguments against, and I'll throw that out there,
Sure.
it grinds against some people's. I mean, you're talking something along the lines of like a voucher system. That's the term
Sure.
that's used. The money's following the student. I think it's great. So, but one of the things some parents get upset with is saying, well, if you're in a rural community, you don't have the local options. My child won't be able to attend that diverse variety of things, and those resources will be pulled away from our communities. And they feel it's unfair and that their child is at a disadvantage. How can you address that?
Well, so there are fewer options in rural areas because of regulation, because co-location, because these things are difficult to start and maintain. We don't have that problem. So, I mean, look, when the like it or loathe it, when the government got out of the way and cannabis shops were allowed to pop up, they popped up all over rural and urban. It didn't matter. So in the same sense, when the government gets out of the way to allow education options to pop up, India has supposedly a fully funded public system from the top down. But what's really helped India do so well in education is they've got all these tremendously low-cost private schools all over in every little town. And it's just because the government, even when they might have wanted to get in the way of that, have not been able to get in the way of it. So it's let 1,000 flowers bloom. And that's the sort of thing in our rural areas, it's the same solution.
And it's good. I mean, I keep getting back to, I mean, they try to talk out of both sides of the mouth. The defenders of the status quo. I don't want to label everybody. There's some fantastic teachers and
Sure.
and people within the unions even and so on. But
Absolutely.
Like speaking for myself, I was a pain in the butt student, low marks. My parents finally outsourced it for some discipline and sent me to an all boys school in Shawnigan Lake, BC. And lo and behold, in a discipline environment, my marks shot right up. But that's me. Another student might have responded terribly in that
Sure.
environment and done very poorly.
Absolutely.
And I mean, it's just that choice. It's that recognizing that there's differences, and some people are more inclined to different fields and different types of learnings than others. And we're really doing our kids a disservice, I think, with this stubborn clinging to this centralized, one size fits all system.
Absolutely. Because again, as with everything else, we know that more options, more choices is the way forward with better quality. It's the idea that one education minister or one educrat in Edmonton can know what's best for my child better than I do is frankly insane to most parents, which is why I thought it's important to get the parents organized around this, because I think it's just natural to most parents to realize that there might be people more expert in curriculum development or pedagogy or any number of other things, but there is no more expert in my 4 children, except maybe my wife, but I'd even argue that.
I'll leave you to that.
But there is no one more expert in my children than my children's parents.
So getting that much inside, though, with the system, say, where the funding was following the student, would that apply then directly to homeschooling if parents choose that as well? I mean, the resources coming into the household to choose to be able to do that?
Yeah, so there are some home educators that don't want that. They think that inevitably the money will come with more government control. We would obviously say that the solution there is to trust the parents and to not bring that. But I think that Alberta's model with funded and unfunded does make sense, so that you have that option for home educators who are afraid of regulation following the money. That we have the unfunded option for them. But yes, absolutely. Just independent schools and home education between 2008 and 2018 saved the Alberta government $1.9 billion. So look, we can, and the government is so stingy with that $850 they give to funded home educators, and seems like there are almost no controls on the $30,000 they give per student to, say, the Northland School Division, which is one of the most failing school divisions in the province. That's obviously so upside down. So we've got to trust the parents and recognize that we can afford to give more money, and it will save money to let people have these other options and make it more accessible to more families.
Great. So your organization now, you're traveling the province. There's a number of meetings and events
Yes.
coming up. So what are you doing, I guess, to bring this about, to promote what you want to do?
Sure. So, right. As you said, we're traveling the province. We just had a great meeting here in Calgary last night. We're headed to Drumheller tonight, and so Drumheller will be the 8th stop. We've got 16 or 17 more after that, trying to just hear from a broad swath of parents all over the province to tell us what our priorities should be, what sort of advocacy they expect to see from us. And those meetings have been going great. And so the main way we're promoting this is via email. So people can go to albertaparentsunion.ca, great website, and sign up for the mailing list so that they can get our updates about that. But yeah, that's our main task right now, is just hearing from the parents, and then we'll start the ball rolling on some of that advocacy.
Great. And then with that advocacy, well, it looks like we're a year from an election. This is provincial jurisdiction.
Yes.
For what you would like to see, that would involve legislative change, then, I imagine, like
Yes.
the Education Act or something has to be changed or amended. The goal, I imagine, would be to encourage the provincial politicians and representatives to reform that system.
Sure. Yes, and so it is provincial, but it's also hyper local. Some of the issues that parents are bringing up are the issues for local school boards to address as well. So we're needing to address these things on both of those levels. And obviously, we see the advantage of devolving more of those decisions down to as local of a level as possible. The kitchen table would be the most local and the best option as far as we're concerned, but down to the individual school level as much as possible, so that because even the school boards are too big for parents to feel like they're having their voice heard. It's too bureaucratic, and so yeah, we're also working on driving things down to the more local level. But obviously, some of even that requires provincial legislation first.
Yeah, and again, these school boards, I mean, some of them, I'm not seeing it as much in Alberta, but there's questionable things. But like that Toronto school board, I mean, they give me more, foundation to rant from. And they pride themselves on how many millions of children that they represent, or hundreds of thousands. And some of their policies are outright crazy.
Mm-hmm.
These are not people I want guiding my children in any sort of way. And I understand they're elected, but obviously they're not serving the parents necessarily that well. But that's it actually gets back to a bit of a rant I had at the start of the show about municipal politics. If we don't get involved and pay attention, these Fruit Loops will rise to the top, and they'll guide policy. So I imagine you're looking to get more civic engagement as well.
Absolutely. Well, one of the problems is, if you want to follow the Alberta Teachers Association party line and vote for the trustees they want, that's really easy. It's really easy to know. Who you should vote for if that's the viewpoint you hold. But if you want someone who, say, doesn't want to abolish the separate system, doesn't want to defund independent schools, doesn't want to close down unfunded home education, even, then where do you go? And there is a knowledge gap there. So we're also working on trying to close that, be able to reach out to more of these people, get them on the record on the issues, and make that available to regular parents so that they can know who to vote for in this election. Because about half the people who vote for their county councillor will vote for their public school trustee in the same jurisdiction. So, and it's because of a lack of knowledge.
Well, that's it. I mean, you ask your average person, I got to admit, I don't know. Ask your average person who their local school trustees
Sure.
are. They probably don't even know the name. I can name my MLA. I can name my member of parliament. I can name a bunch of cabinet ministers because I'm a political weenie. But school trustees, well, since my kids aren't in the system any longer either, but it's still important.
Sure.
We forget about that. We neglect it. And if we neglect any democratic exercise, we're not going to get a better outcome.
That's right. And we know that the people towing the ATA party line are going to show up at these elections. So that leads to this unbalanced system where one side of this argument is heavily overrepresented, and we're just not showing up at the table. And decisions are made by the people who show up, as always.
Well, it sounds like a great initiative and really interesting. So I appreciate you coming in to talk to us about this today. And maybe just one more time to the audience, how can people find you guys? Make sure, they can catch these meetings in person if they can, and just get more information about your organization in general.
Sure. AlbertaParentsUnion.com, .ca, sorry. AlbertaParentsUnion.ca is the place to find all of that. We've got an events tab that's telling you where. Now we've got all our events booked. We've actually gotten venues everywhere but High Level Lacrete. If anyone knows anyone there that could get us a spot, that's great. We're working on that. Might have that done by the end of the day even. But everywhere else in the province we've got booked, so you can find where we are in your area, and then and sign up for the mailing list so that you can know when we're having events in the future as well.
Excellent. Well, thank you again, and
so
we'll watch your movement carefully, and I'm sure we'll probably have you in to talk again.
Okay, thanks so much, Cory.
Thank you.